As a basketball fan, one of the biggest slaps in the face I can receive from a player is when they waste their talent. From time to time, there is a player with such a huge potential that he can change the whole game. But instead, they let their egos get in the way of what is best for them and their team. This list won't include players who lost to injuries, as this will be discussed in a different video. But for now, let's focus on those who simply didn't match their potential, and let's check why. The start of Steve Francis wasting his talent began the night he was drafted by the Vancouver Grizzlies, with the second overall pick in the 1999 draft. In a bad PR move, he publicly stated that he didn't want to play for the Grizzlies, irritating the fans and the organization. Francis ultimately got his wish and was traded to the Houston Rockets, where he became a productive shooting guard who could also pass well. Yet, once Jeff Van Gundy took over as head coach, Francis refused to adapt to coach's more conservative style of play. He was traded to the Orlando Magic but was unhappy because of that. However, he adapted because of the run-and-gun offense of interim head coach, Chris Gent. In the middle of the season, the Magic traded away his friend, Cuttino Mobley, to the Sacramento Kings, which upset Francis. A year later, he was suspended by his team for kicking a courtside photographer. A month later, Steve was traded to the New York Knicks. He had incredible talent, but simply his head wasn't there. That's why he played his last NBA game at the age of 30. Michael Beasley, in his lone year at Kansas State, averaged 26.2 points and 12.4 rebounds, while showcasing a ridiculous amount of offensive skill for a forward. Derrick Rose was the surefire number 1 pick in the 2008 NBA draft, but Beasley was hardly a consolation prize when the Miami Heat snagged him at number 2. Even at that early juncture, there were concerns about Beasley's character. According to Draft Express player profile, the 6 feet 10 inches forward's weaknesses included attitude, focus, and off-court red flags. Beasley didn't want to waste time and had his first problems way ahead of his first NBA game. According to Zach Harper of CBS Sports, Beasley was fined $50,000 for his involvement in an incident at the 2008 rookie transition program in which himself, Mario Chalmers, and Darrell Arthur violated program policy by having women in the room. Hotel workers also detected the odor of marijuana, and were only there in the first place because the smoke alarm went off at approximately 2 a.m. It should be mentioned that Beasley actually snuck out of the room, leaving Chalmers and Arthur to take the rap. He was later forced by Heat president Pat Riley to admit his role in the affair. At some point during the summer of 2009, Beasley was required to participate in the league's drug program. In August 2009, his status at a rehabilitation facility shifted from outpatient to inpatient, indicating he'd broken one of the program's rules. During the weeks leading up to the story about his rehab stint, Beasley had been active on the social media in the worst way possible. The actual tweets have since been deleted, but the Los Angeles Times reprinted the ones that stirred up concern for Beasley's mental health. Those posts, combined with an unrelated photo from Beasley that featured a baggie of what looked like an awful lot of marijuana in the background, didn't help. Neither did an image of him passed out on a boat surrounded by empty bottles. It's possible he was just worn out after a tough workout. I mean, he seems to be his game shorts on. And of course that's not over, but let's describe the rest shortly. In June 2011, police stopped Beasley for speeding and discovered over 16 grams of marijuana under the front passenger seat. In August 2011, he shoved a fan in the face during an exhibition game in New York. The list continues for the next few years, and this reputation and all actions took a toll on his career. He never fulfilled the potential that he showed. Antoine Walker was one of the top forwards in the game at one point. He averaged 20-plus points in 5 of his 12 seasons and was a decent rebounder as well. However, Walker's career declined rapidly in a 3-year span. He struggled with his weight on occasion and was out of the league by 2008, just 2 years after getting a championship with the Miami Heat. He retired at the age of 31 and had some financial and gambling problems. In 2009, it was reported that he had written about $800,000 in bad checks. In 2010, he declared bankruptcy. Luckily, 2.5 years later he bounced back. Today he helps others avoid the money issues he's overcome. He's a consultant with Ediacor, a financial literacy company that focuses on teaching athletes how to manage their money. So at least here we have a happy ending. I already mentioned Gilbert Arenas in a video about the worst contracts ever signed in the NBA. His story is very familiar to everyone. As a rookie, he was great with the Golden State Warriors and left the team after just 2 years. In his second year with the Washington Wizards, he already was an all-star and had 2 seasons when he averaged over 28 points per game. He then lost a season due to a knee injury but was back averaging over 22 points per game during the 2010 season. But on December 24, 2009, it was reported that Arenas had admitted to storing unloaded firearms in his locker room. On January 1, 2010, it was also reported that Arenas and his teammate Javaris Crittenton had drawn guns on each other in the Wizards' locker room during a Christmas Eve argument regarding gambling debts. On January 6, 2010, on Arenas' 28th birthday, the NBA suspended him indefinitely without pay until its investigation was complete. On January 14, 2010, Arenas was charged with carrying a pistol without a license, and a day later he pleaded guilty. He was sentenced to 2 years of probation and 30 days in a halfway house. A couple of years later, he was traded to the Orlando Magic, where he played for 1 year and was later waived as the first player ever with the usage of the amnesty rule. However, his real career ended in 2010 after the incident with Crittenton. Latrell Sprewell quickly developed a reputation as a hothead. After being drafted by the Golden State Warriors, Sprewell was talented on the court but also had issues with some of his teammates, getting into fights with Jerome Kersey and Byron Houston. The blackest mark of his career came in 1997 when he snapped during practice and choked coach PJ Carlesimo. He was suspended for 68 games before being traded to the New York Knicks. While productive in New York, Sprewell gained a reputation for taking some bad shots, and given his high price tag, he was traded to the Minnesota Timberwolves in 2003. He spent 2 productive years there, and was offered a 3-year deal worth $21 million after the 2005 season. Sprewell turned it down with the famous words, "I have a family to feed." But there was no new contract offer. Sprewell never played in the NBA again. There were 2 power forwards in the 1990s whose careers crossed each other and declined at the same time, Shawn Kemp and Vin Baker. Both had successful careers. Baker played in 5 straight All-Star games from 1994 to 1998. The Rain Men did the same but for 1 more year, starting already in 1993. In 1997, they were part of a 3-team deal between the Seattle Supersonics, Cleveland Cavaliers, and Milwaukee Bucks. They both had a very good first season with the new team, but then came the lockout year. Both took overweight during the lockout year, but it didn't end there. Kemp, besides being overweight, had some alcohol and cocaine problems. Baker stayed only with weight and alcohol. When with the Boston Celtics a few years later, coach Jim O'Brien smelled alcohol on his breath and suspended him before he was released. When the Chicago Bulls took Curry with the number 4 pick in 2002, his 6 feet 11 inches, 280-pound frame, along with his dominant inside presence, earned him the nickname Baby Shaq. Instead, Curry was one of the biggest busts in NBA history. The Chicago Bulls drafted him 4th overall in 2001. He played only 289 games in 4 years and averaged 11.8 points, 4.9 rebounds, and almost 1 block per game. In October 2005, Chicago traded Curry to the Knicks in a huge package deal that included multiple first-round picks. While the Bulls ultimately made out well on the deal, Knicks fans quickly realized the front office's fatal mistake. Weight issues plagued Curry during his time in New York. After starting 208 games in his first 3 seasons, he never started another game in a Knicks uniform. Eddie Curry missed the entire 2010-11 season before making a brief NBA comeback with the Miami Heat and Dallas Mavericks. However, after entering the NBA at age 18, his career ended after his age 30 season. Though he failed to live up to expectations, Curry still got paid well. He totaled $70 million in NBA earnings, including a career-high $11.5 million from the Timberwolves. Of course, many forget that Minnesota bought out his contract and paid him to literally not play for the franchise. Even though he banked millions, the father of 7 struggled to manage his money. The most shocking revelation? According to Curry's court papers, he spent $1,075 per month on cable and satellite TV service. He also spent $6,000 a month on a personal chef and $17,000 on relatives and dependents. Eddie Curry serves as a cautionary tale for athletes when it comes to financial management. At 6 feet 11 inches, Washburn was one of the top 3 high school recruits in the country in 1984. During his time at NC State, he was caught stealing a stereo, which resulted in his being sentenced to 46 hours in jail, a 5-year suspended prison term, and 5 years of probation. Washburn left NC State after the 1986 season and was selected by the Golden State Warriors with the 3rd overall pick of the 1986 NBA draft. The Warriors brought in center Joe Barry Carroll to help Washburn's development, but to no avail. The highlight of Washburn's career might have come in an October exhibition game in his rookie season against the Knicks. In a 23-point loss, he scored 16 points. Tendinitis in his knee led Washburn to take anti-inflammatory medicine, which led to a kidney infection in January 1987. On January 28, he checked into a Van Nuys, California, drug rehabilitation clinic, admitting to having a cocaine problem. After returning to the Warriors in late March, the player remained ineffective. Washburn played 72 games over 2 seasons, 1.5 seasons with the Warriors and part of another with the Atlanta Hawks, averaging 3.1 points and 2.4 rebounds per game. Washburn received a lifetime NBA ban in June 1989 after failing 3 drug tests in 3 years. In 2005, Sports Illustrated named him the 2nd biggest NBA draft bust of all time. But it was still an early stage of Kwame Brown's career and many years ahead of the draft when Anthony Bennett was selected 1st overall. Ben Simmons was promised to be a modern LeBron James. He is a point guard in a power forward's body. In the week leading up to the 2016 NBA draft, Simmons' attitude and character were questioned by a number of NBA media analysts. During the 76ers' final training camp scrimmage, Simmons rolled his right ankle. After receiving an X-ray and MRI of the foot and ankle, it was determined that Simmons had fractured the bone of his right foot and was estimated to miss 3 to 4 months. On February 2017, he was ruled out for the entire 2017 NBA season after tests revealed that his broken right foot had not fully healed. A year later, he became Rookie of the Year. In 2019, he played in his first All-Star game, and in 2020, he gained his first All-NBA and All-Defense Team selections. Everything started to fall apart in 2021. After the 76ers Game 7 loss in the 2021 Eastern Conference semifinals, Joel Embiid cited Simmons' decision to pass up an open dunk as the turning point in the game. A reporter asked 76ers coach Doc Rivers if Simmons could be a point guard on a championship team, to which Rivers responded, "I don't even know how to answer that right now." In response to this and other factors, Simmons, despite having 4 years left on his contract, decided in August 2021 that he no longer wanted to be a member of the team. He declared his intentions to be traded and noted that he was willing to miss training camp to enforce his trade demand. Simmons returned to the team on October 11, 2021. On October 19, Simmons was thrown out of practice by Rivers due to declining several times to substitute into a drill, and he was suspended by the 76ers for 1 game, the team's season opener against the New Orleans Pelicans, due to conduct detrimental to the team. In February 2022, Simmons was traded, along with Andre Drummond, Seth Curry, and 2 future first-round picks, to the Brooklyn Nets in exchange for James Harden and Paul Millsap. But he was never himself again. He played some games last season for the Brooklyn Nets but was far away from his previous performance. Last year, Shaquille O'Neal even said that Simmons should start learning Chinese, as that's where he's going to play after his current contract expires. And all of this after such a great start to his career. It's still far from this, but Ja Morant has already started doing a lot to be on this list in the future. During the last season, there were leaks of multiple pieces of information about his behavior related to owning a gun and showing that on social media. In March 2023, he was suspended for 8 games without pay for an incident in the nightclub. He again recorded a video holding a gun. He was again suspended for the first 25 games of the next season. If he continues like that, he might become a permanent member of this list. Okay, that's it for today. Remember to like the video, leave a comment, and subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.